Okay, call to order Greenwich Township Committee, April 17th, 2014, 7 p.m. Adequate notice of this meeting was given in accordance by the Open Public Meeting Act by mailing a schedule of the Township Committee to the Express Times and North Star Ledger newspaper, posting a copy on the Township Bulletin Board, and filing a copy with the Township Clerk. Roll call: Thales.
Here.
Miliani. Here. Adams.
Here.
Colari.
Here.
Torriello.
Here.
All rise to the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. No, yes it is.
Mayor, do we want to do the payment of the bills and claims and things first?
Yeah, at this time, can I have a motion for the payment of bills and claims in the amount of $281,222.61?
Make the motion.
Second.
Any comment? Roll call.
Thales.
Yes.
Miliani.
Yes.
Adams.
Abstain.
Colari.
Yes.
Torriello.
Yes. At this time, can I have a motion to open up this session for public comment period regarding agenda items only, for comments to last 3 minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Anyone wishing to make public comment on agenda items only, this is the first of 2 public comment periods. Please come up, state your name and address.
Gary Hill, 529 North Main Street, Springfield. Looking at the agenda items, my comments are just that. Budget deficits, first thing we always seem to happen is to take away the services that are owed to the Greenwich Township residents. Based on the comments made by a previous auditor, we're still not at a minimum standard for our county practice. Based on that statement, do we know that we have accurate numbers to make the decisions that we're adopting? The January 16th meeting minutes, the CFO informed the Township Committee that the current fund was closed and it looks like there's an additional $400,000 in surplus. Again, are we sure we have accurate numbers? It doesn't mean that we're about to cut jobs and services to the residents of Greenwich, so we may not really have to. The residents of Greenwich Township deserve better. The police secretary, if you eliminate that secretary, you will now require a police officer to come off of the road, off of his patrol duty, and fill out documents, file paperwork. That police officer should be on the streets protecting the residents of Greenwich Township. You're also going to lose your police major. That means we'll be paying out large amounts of money to fight off wrongful allegation complaints, or the delay of processing of prisoners while the officer waits for a different matron to arrive. Again, longer time off of his patrol duties. The auditor also made a comment about loss of revenue in the court system. Working within a police department, I've witnessed this firsthand, what the loss of morale within a police department can do to a town financially. They piss off the cops, they don't write tickets. Loss of revenue. Officers love to do their job. Keep them happy, and you will see the rewards of revenue. In case you haven't figured it out yet, cops don't like to fill out papers. They would rather be on the streets protecting the citizens. DPW, we have a very small department. If you remove one or even cut those hours, it's going to affect the entire operation of that department. With hours cut, if one is sick or on vacation, the department essentially shuts down. You can't even expect one guy to pick up the dead deer that's on Prospect Street. They take 2 guys to do that. So they'll sit there and rot. Experienced DPW workers save the town money. They get jobs done faster. They know how to prioritize jobs quickly and efficiently, also saving you money. Greenwich residents deserve better. Fourth, if you cut our hours in the positions, cut hours or positions, ultimately you're going to have less productivity. That means, again, less money coming in. We've already said that revenue is down. It's going to increase call-outs and ultimately cost us more money. An administrative assistant being cut. Some years it's difficult just to get a yard sale permit. All right? The town cannot be relying on just one person. We've had that discussion before. If there's a long vacation period or, God forbid, a serious illness, the mutual aid agreement is not going to cover those lost and missed services. Greenwich Township residents deserve better. That's why they're here tonight. Thank you.
Byrne, 104 Birch Lane. I see an awful lot of work going into cutting expenses in this township. But there are two sides to this problem. There's an expense side, and I really don't think we have an expense problem. We have a revenue problem. So what I'd like to hear from this committee is what's being done to raise revenues. What are we doing to raise the rateables in this township? Why are we so hostile towards commercial development, trying to get more tax revenues into this township? We spent millions on open space. So open space is not a problem anymore. We've got lots of open space. What we need are rateables. And I don't see any energy being directed in that direction. But if expense cutting is really what you're after, look at yourselves. This is the highest paid committee in the county. Consider cutting yourselves before you start cutting the services to the township. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Paul Bean, 417 North Main Street. Town council for years has borrowed or used one-time expenditures to balance the budget. This is nothing new. However, recently it seems to be a source of ridicule. The real problem is over the last 20 years, town council has always chosen to slash and cut the budget to maintain lower taxes. Although Greenwich's website says it's a fiscally sound community, nothing is further from the truth. Whether it's your home, business, or municipality, you have to plan for the future expenditures. It's clearly not in the community's best interest to borrow, no matter what the bond rating is. The infrastructure of this town is deteriorating: roads, drainage, police cars, road department, and emergency vehicles. Town hall, and not to mention the inflation on payroll and healthcare costs that will continue to rise. This all needs to be taken into consideration in the planning of the budget, since there are no foreseeable rateable increases coming into town. The town council, instead of getting bad advice from specific professionals and friends who sit on the boards, should have been helping Christie's administration fighting COA, which may create affordable housing, but on the back of current homeowners. While COA is attached to commercial development, we are doomed to pick up the tabs ourselves. Council should be working with the state level to bring under control the education system and getting more state aid. It's a huge undertaking, but that's where the savings are, not in reducing employee hours and terminating the police department administrative assistant police matron. It will only cause the officers to end up behind the desk more frequently, while crime runs rampant in our community.
Sue Fleming, 38 Richland Hill Road, where I've lived for 40 years, and the acting court administrator, and I've worked for the court for 19 years. I've also volunteered with the emergency squad for over 20 years, and I've never been so disrespected as I have with this current committee. We have all been on edge since being rice noticed on April 2nd. Both my deputy, Leslie, and myself had compensation checked off on our notices. But I have no idea at all what this means as far as our jobs or our livelihoods are concerned. Where is the transparency when you can't even talk to your employees? We have nothing given the opportunity to express our ideas and concerns regarding the daily court operations. Between Leslie and myself, we have over 28 years of experience with Greenwich Township Municipal Court. Leslie and I are the two lowest paid full-time employees here. We work in a revenue-generating department. In fact, yesterday I gave the CFO a monthly disbursement check for the month of March in the amount of $13,069. Before any financial study was conducted, we were instructed to no longer accept credit card payments. In fact, we did not even look into the procedures for credit card use in the municipal courts in the state of New Jersey, which the procedures were set forth by Directive 8-98 on November 17, 1998, stating that the township is responsible for any fees incurred. Instead, all five of you voted on a motion by Committeeman Adams that the court return a check in the amount of $881 covering credit card fees for a 3-month period that the town had issued to the court. Another example of how you react on an impulse without considering the negative impact your decision may have is the hasty moving of the offices. While I was out due to an injury, an email was sent demanding this move immediately. This disrupted the daily operation of the court. Instead of allowing us to make the transition in a less chaotic manner. Mayor Torriello, you are my liaison this year, and you were 2 years ago, and I don't believe we've spoken face-to-face more than 3 times. On March 11th, I gave you a letter concerning my certification, and you were also notified by the state. However, you have not even given me the consideration of responding. You have emailed me a request to meet with me on 4 different occasions, the last being this morning at 9 a.m. However, each time you came up with an excuse to cancel. I gave you the opportunity to meet with me last night, but no response. Is this because you didn't want to meet with me before tonight's meeting, so you can keep me guessing as to what you and the rest of the committee has in mind for my future? All I'm asking is for some respect. Most of you come into this building, you don't even acknowledge that Leslie and I are in these offices. Other than you, Elaine, most of you do not even say hello.
Anyone else?
And was 17 previously. I wasn't going to comment, but after hearing Sue, just as a citizen here, I see how disrespectful you are to virtually all your staff. It appears to me that you didn't give anyone the opportunity to come up with any other cost measures, as is maybe the township road department head. Maybe he had some suggestions. Maybe Sue's boss might have had a better suggestion on some kind of cost-saving measures. But it seems to me that you just randomly made the decision without looking into some other ways of doing things. And in addition, I feel it's always very disrespectful where you're not even acknowledging what we're trying to get across to you. You know, I see you, Mayor, with your head down, virtually no response at all. You'd rather that we don't speak, is what I got from you. And apparently, judging from how Sue said, that's how you treat everyone in this building.
Anyone else wishing to make public comment? You have 3 minutes.
I didn't say my name is Joseph, so I haven't started yet, right? So don't be disrespectful to me, Joe. Because I don't deserve it. You're the piece of crap.
Excuse me?
Danny Siegel, 1913 Lincoln Drive, Stewartsville, and stop smoking. I just want to show a couple things. In January, it says, new mayor pledges transparency. Newspaper article. New mayor pledges transparency. Example, special meeting that was just held Tuesday evening to settle a lawsuit that impacts the budget, but yet it was advertised to the public the day after the meeting. Good transparency, Mayor. Right here is the publication of the meeting. It's in the Express Times on the 16th, and the meeting was Tuesday. Good transparency. Let's talk a little bit about the budget. You have a Facebook account. Makes it look like it's the township, but we know it's not. You claim that Committeeman Fleury and you voted against the budget due to reckless fiscal policies that would lead to a budget shortfall in 2014. You say you warned about the budget being adopted by President and Phelan would result in a 2014 budget gap that would lead to either significant municipal tax increase this year or budget cuts. Committeeman Adams wrote a letter to the editor today attempting to deflect the blame for his good buddies, you and Emiliani, by saying that the residents should have a clear understanding of the financial chaos from the previous administration imposed on us. Let me give you a little bit of budget history. I think it's better if you see it in black and white. So, budget facts, 2008-2009. Emiliani was mayor. The budget increased
Comment to the committee.
13%
Doing
in
a
2008,
presentation to the town.
20% in 2009. She borrowed, took money.
Ms. Siegel, I'm asking you to keep your comments to the agenda items only.
It's budget.
No, it's not this budget. It's
It leads up to the budget.
Ms. Siegel, you can say whatever you want in the second, no, you are going to speak on agenda items only, or I'm going to declare you out of
This is the
order.
budget.
On this budget,
It
budget,
leads up to this budget.
we have, no, you're going to talk about this budget, or I'm going to table your conversation until the second public comment, when you will have an unlimited agenda. That is not the agenda item. You will talk about
You're
this
saying I can
budget.
speak about this
You-
at the second public
Yes.
comment? Okay. All right, that's what we do then. Let's do that. Look it up real quick. What's the other one there? Disrespect the residents, can't bring us down.
Anyone else wanting to make public comment on the agenda items in accordance with our agenda?
I thought the budget was on the agenda.
Anyone else? Seeing no hands, a motion to close the first public comment period?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Now, can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters, DPW, equipment operator, truck driver, Class A, clerical assistant, collection clerk, animal control officer, and tax collector?
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Bailey's?
Yes.
Miliani? Yes. Adams?
Yes.
Florrie?
Yes.
Triolo?
Yes. We anticipate being in executive session for approximately how long do we think?
I think 30 to 45 minutes.
30 to 45 minutes. Okay.
Executive session is usually 7 to 7:30.
Okay?
Is it possible you can have the executive session somewhere else, because it's not about being hallway all of us?
No. I'm sorry, we need to do our business here. Thank you.
Big room and big.
Not a bad thing. Who's Blondie? Am I gentleman with the glasses? Probably not good. No, it's good.
Take anything.
Come back.
Jim, we gotta have the second public comment before we introduce the budget. If you wanna add a third, go ahead. No, we gotta introduce, no, I'm not doing that. We're gonna have the public comment before we introduce the budget. The budget's the very last thing.
No.
I know, I'm switching it. What? No, they should get to speak before we introduce, otherwise we deem their comments irrelevant. They need to speak before.
What do you want me to start from?
You make your proposed introductions, they're proposals.
This is
Okay, before we go on. Okay? And then they get to speak.
When she turns around and she's talking with the residents, that's not, public comment is public comment to Jessica.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. This is wrong. You gotta do public comment beforehand. Otherwise, it looks bad. Okay, are we,
We are recording.
we're recording?
And PA's on.
Can I have a motion to come out of executive session and to reopen the public meeting?
Make a motion. I'll second.
Bailey's?
Yes.
Miliani? Yes. Adams?
Yes.
Valori?
Yes.
Triolo?
Yes. Can I have a motion to authorize the clerk to contact the candidate for tax collector in accordance with the terms discussed in executive session?
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Comment? Roll call.
Bailey's?
Yes.
Miliani? Yes. Adams?
Yes.
Valori?
Yes.
Triolo?
Yes.
Did you say temporary?
Temporary.
Temporary. Well, I said in accordance with the terms in executive, actually.
I'm sorry.
That's what I said. So,
Now the resolution. What do you say?
Can I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2014-42, authorizing the issuance of a notice for the repurchase of 4159, a GPD of unused sewer allocation in connection with the sewer usage of Quaker City Motor Parts, known as Napa Mini Mall, situated on Block 24, Lot 3.01, as designated on the tax maps of the Township of Greenwich.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Comment? Roll call.
Bailey's?
Yes.
Miliani? Yes. Adams?
Yes.
Valori?
Yes.
Triolo?
Yes. And typically, when we discuss personnel matters in executive session, and we come out of executive session, we usually call for motions, and we phrase them in terms of, with respect to the terms discussed in executive session. Personnel matters that are typically, but not always, when you're discussed, it can often be performance-driven, and in those situations, items are not discussed in public. But because all of the personnel matters that we are discussing tonight, none of them are performance-driven. This is purely budgetary. We're going to have a little bit more discussion than what is typically done when we come out of personnel matters, because when we come out of executive session, because we're dealing with the township's budget, and this is all budgetary driven. So, with respect to that, I think at this time, we're going to take in order discussing the personnel matters that we addressed in executive session, and have a little bit of a discussion in public, I think, so that the folks understand where we're at and what we're trying to achieve. And just so those in attendance here tonight understand, this township committee was handed a very difficult task from those who were in control of the finances and budget last year. We were handed a significant deficit. The inordinate and excessive amount of spending increases that occurred last year, that spending increase was fueled by one-time revenues. Those revenues are not available to this township committee, but the expenditures are still present. So, we are tasked as a township committee. Really, there's two choices. It's either to increase taxes or to look to our operation to see if there are ways where we can reduce the impact to the taxpayer. And when we make decisions here as a township committee, we can't make them in a vacuum. We can't simply look at our operation and what that increase would be to the residents without looking at the full tax levy. And as most of you know, the municipal budget represents only one portion of your tax bill. There's also the county, and there's also the school. And the county, not to my knowledge, I don't believe they've passed their budget yet, but there are indications of a possible increase. Many of you have seen in the paper, the residents are facing an increased levy this year in the amount of $670,000 that was not charged to the tax levy last year. That's going to appear this year for the first time. And additionally, there is a public question, April 23rd, which, if passed, would represent an additional levy of $1.2 million. So you take that 1.2, the 670, you're over 1.8 before you get to the county. And just so the residents understand, if you were to take a Greenwich home valued at $300,000, and if the again, without any reference to the county, because we don't know what they're going to do, but if you were to look at if question 2 passes, and we add the $670,000 levy this year on the bill, residents would see an increase of $1,200 alone this year, without any consideration to our budget. So when we're making our decisions, we have to consider the taxpayer's ability to pay the tax. And there's only so much that you can ask taxpayers to pay. So, we are doing our best to deal with a situation that was handed to us, and we have to deal with it. And the numbers are the numbers, and we have to get there. So, we knew in January of these difficulties, which is why at our reorganization meeting, we scheduled 2 meetings a month for the months of January, February, March, and April, because we knew 2 things. Number one, we knew the inordinate amount of work that would have to be done to close that budget gap, so we needed those extra meetings. And we knew we needed to, unlike last year, we needed to pass a budget as soon as possible, because as each month passes, the fiscal deficit gets deeper and deeper, and it gets harder and harder to dig out of it. So, there's a lot of factors in play that we have to consider. And, in addition to us working, twice as much as last year, Jim and Elaine and the Finance Committee have spent countless hours, working and reviewing every component of our operation and changing operations and procedures to add efficiencies so that it would assist in terms of any adjustments that we have to make would have the most minimal impact on the services that we, provide to the residents. So I think with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jim and/or Elaine to start providing some more detail, following up on our last meeting where we kind of set the table.
I'm going to put forth some recommendations from the Budget and Finance Committee, and then Joe, before the introduction of the budget, you'd like to move up the comment period?
Yeah, public comment period should not come after the introduction of the budget. I don't know why it's listed that way. We'll have public comment before.
Okay, so, as most of you know who were in the room, back on April 3rd, I actually tabled the introduction of the 2014 budget, mainly because it was a budget that was not sustainable for the municipal government. Potential corrections that we were looking for in the budget, as Joe alluded to, myself and Elaine came in towards the tail end of last year and realized we were looking at some issues, because all the documentation that we had was only current as of October of that year. This was 2 days before the end of the year. And that's why we went for the 4 budget workshops, and we actually had to add 2, February 15th and March 15th in there, in order to address the number, the sheer volume of issues that we were dealing with. So at that point in time, I decided to table that 2014 budget introduction. Tonight, we will be introducing the budget. We took a look at that budget, which we had just received a few days prior. The auditor's preliminary findings, which I had just received, I believe, that night. I can't remember. I was on a phone with you. You know the day. And develop recommendations primarily to reduce the $700,000 impact to our surplus. Our surplus is $923,000. That would have left us with, ballpark, $223,000. Prior to that, the surplus was $1.2 billion. Simple math. So when you go through the year 2013, you start with $1.2 million in surplus, and you end up with $923 plus a $700,000 hit to make that up. We could have simply raised taxes. Individuals mentioned additional revenue sources. We looked into liquor licenses and the 2 that the township had. We looked into dog licenses. We obviously are looking into the way station. Unfortunately, these revenue streams can't just get turned on. So we could have simply also raised taxes. That is another revenue generation. However, we felt obligated to the people who elected us to this position to once and for all correct the financial mismanagement of the past. We went through the entire budget. We developed our recommendations. We began with the operational budgets, obviously, first. We went into allocations within our budget. We dealt with areas that would be least impactful to the residents. We ourselves live here, okay? We're not here to decimate anybody. We believe we believe that we have avoided any disruption, primarily to the safety and to the volunteer organizations within our township. And we believe we can maintain the current service levels by increasing efficiencies through technology and process improvements, not only throughout the financial area, but throughout the court, the DPW, and the police functions of the township. So we believe we've annualized, I think, about $301,000 in reductions. If you recall, if you were here at the last meeting, we're at $700,000. We basically would have to take $700,000 in order to keep the tax rate flat. Our auditor, Bob Morrison, said if we come in between, I think the number was 350 to 400, we'd be good. What we were able to do was 300. We couldn't meet the goal of 350, or else the departments wouldn't be able to function anymore. So we believe the annual reductions of $300,000 will provide a sustainable municipal government. We reduced operations and expense by a total of $57,000, and I'm going to use round numbers. We reduced the aid that we provide to 2 organizations by $22,000. We reduced the overtime by $50,000. And when I say this, I should be saying we're recommending this. We're recommending the position eliminations. We have done one already. That was the temporary purchasing clerk, done in February. We're also recommending position elimination for the part-time clerical assistant. We're recommending position elimination for the full-time police secretary. We're recommending reduction in hours for the acting court administrator from $40 to $30 an hour.
Not $30, 30 hours. 40
Oh,
hours.
sorry. The rate there is $17.29 per hour, so I stand corrected. It's from 40 hours to 30 hours, as well as the deputy court administrator from 40 hours to 30 hours, as well as the DPW equipment operator, truck driver class A from 40 to $30, from 40 to 30 hours a week. The land use board secretary, I believe we will be investigating what those hours are being reduced to. And for the animal control officer, we're going to maintain the salary at the budgeted amount, and currently the animal control office is running at a deficit, and we need a revenue-generating plan from the animal control officer to justify anything additional in that area. Elaine, those are
Yes.
Those are the recommendations,
I
yeah.
want to address the court, the actions taken in the court. We know that the revenue generation of the court has gone down. I have spoken to the judge. I have a meeting with him on Monday. What I do know, as increases occur, the girls will be able to make the women will be able to make their schedule based on covering the court and making sure it's open, but they will also be on a situation where, as the needs arise, their hours will rise. No one has lost health care benefits. Barry, the same is for your department, the DPW. We have reduced the hours to 30 hours with the idea that as the needs occur, the needs arise, we will be back up and hopefully have the monies set aside. No benefits have been lost. This is not an easy decision to make because I, of all the elected officials up here, have been working with you folks for a number of years. It's not an easy situation to be in, but I completely agree that the increase in the taxes that we are looking at is going to be something that, we overall need to be, concerned at how the residents are going to be paying future taxes. I would anticipate, that Judge may, in fact, my discussions with him will be consistent with going back to a 4-day court for the temporary time. And as he tells me, the needs are improving and the collection rates are improving, as we discussed in the past, we will hopefully go back to where we were before and make this back to a full-fledged 40 hours.
And the collection practice is changing, because I spoke with the judge as well, and we are
We are moving
not going to be
towards-
as flexible in terms of the
Yes,
time
in terms of the time payments, and we are going towards an agency where we have $300,000 in outstanding tickets that have not been paid and fines that have not been paid. We are going to a collection agency to actually recoup those dollars. I haven't been involved too much with the court over these past few years. Maybe way back when, in my early days, I was, but I certainly was not under any, I never thought that there was $370,000 in outstanding fines. But we need to grasp that, and we need to take control of some of the things that have, put us in a deficit. And frankly, I'm not happy about this, but it's something that needs to be done, and that's all that I can say.
Angela?
I have to admit that this committee has gone to a lot of effort, and the Finance Committee has gone to a lot of effort in putting this together. It's been a very logical and forthright effort. I have to hand it to them, in the way that they've handled it. However, in my feeling, I really can't go along with the cuts in the staff, and that, in my experience, and I'm probably the only one here who comes from a smaller company. Most of you have been with larger companies, and to me, Greenwich is a smaller town, and in smaller companies, as are smaller towns, the people are the most important thing. It's that person that you come up to, when you need something that you count on, and that knows a little something that when you need help. And I think that's the best, the most important resource of the town. The people that we're talking about, most of them here, have been with the township for a long period of time. Some of them volunteer for our emergency squad and other nonprofit organizations for many years. And when they talk about the fact that they weren't given any notice, just like the nice way that you people have been explaining it here, I think that if maybe in more general terms you could have said it a little more in advance, I think it would have been a nice idea to do that. Because, it is something that if you are going to do it, then you really need to discuss it in advance with them. But one of the negative things about it is that because you're a small organization, what happens is that you've got good people, then they're also, if they're not happy because, or they just can't make it because they're being cut back in pay, then they start looking around and they see something else and they get attracted away. Now you're in a situation where when things get better, you need to hire somebody. Now, obviously you're looking around, and then they look back and they see, what's your history? Because now it becomes a back and forth. You ask them questions, they ask you questions, and now it becomes, more of a back and forth situation. And, we've had two situations here where we're just now getting ready to hire a tax collector. We went a long time before we had finally got a planning secretary, and we finally got somebody good now after changing, several times and going out without one for a long period of time. These people are very, very important to us. And, I was in a situation last year where our community day almost didn't happen when someone very important on our staff pulled me out of the fire because someone else didn't do their job. And, and I'm not going to name any names, but if someone else was in that position, we might not have had a community day. So the people are the most important thing, and we need to value them. I do have to say that if the cuts that they've made, if you're going to make cuts, they've made them in the least, damaging fashion. But I really can't go along with it, and I can't vote for it. But I have a feeling in some cases with some of the people that it's affecting, it could bite us later on, and I'm afraid of that. Again, with all due respect, that's my feeling. I'm sorry.
Tom, any recommendations or questions?
No, I just have some comments. For those who are here and who see this, I've been living in this town for a little over 16 years, and I've worked alongside a lot of you. I've volunteered alongside a lot of you. My kids have gone through the schools. I've lived in 3 different homes here in different neighborhoods. I've watched my taxes progressively go up. And I've experienced the wonderful services that we have in this town. But what I'd like to say is that the decisions were not taken lightly, and I don't take any of this stuff lightly. I know the impact that it has on the families and the people here and the hardworking people here. But in light of when I see the potential of what's coming, the wave that's coming, the things that we've seen, what we've been dealt. Like Joe said, we're not the full portion of the budget. We have the school, we have the county, and what's coming down for all of us here is something big, and it's going to be hard to manage, and for us to add on to that, I think is irresponsible. So I think that Jim, Elaine, and Bob, and those who have worked hard, have done, like Angela said, I think the cuts where they've made are ones that we needed to do, and they weren't taken lightly.
Any other questions for the Finance Committee? I think at this time, I'll ask for a motion to open up the meeting for the second and final public comment period.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone wishing to make public comment, please come up and state your name.
Mr. Elmer, Chief of Police, Greenwich Township, Police Department. I'd like to address the recent decision that your spoken Department and Police Secretary. I've made numerous requests to discuss possible decisions to greatly impact the services to the residents of the township, citizens, and the day-to-day operations of the police department. This was done in regard to a recent settlement to bring Officer back. Placing him in this position is under the authority of the Chief of Police, not the Township Committee. I only know about the final settlement from what's posted online in the Express Times, and it's tremendous disservice to the residents of the Greenwich Township and the public we serve. As you, the Township Committee, have the right to hire, I, the Chief of Police, have the right, under Title 40A, 14, to scrap duty and assignments to all subordinates. The Police Secretary is not only a secretary, she's our matron. We put a lot of hours in. She's a matron of other departments in the township as well. She assists us with females under arrest. She manages time-sensitive issues in regards to firearms, OPA requests, and dissemination matters. These are time-sensitive things that have to get out in a certain time and must be out. She's received numerous performance evaluations over 14 years with this department, including in 2009 a unit citation for assistance in a large drug raid which involved a female. She has used approximately 10 sick days in her 14-year tour. She stayed after numerous hours. Her knowledge and need is immeasurable to our police record system, and I received numerous praise from citizens, residents, about her knowledge in the system. Her time management is phenomenal. She's here early every day and stays after when she's needed. She comes in whenever called out for matron matters. She reports safety issues whenever they arise. I just want to ask where the savings are in this. I have 3 words to describe the police secretary I've worked with ever since I was hired in this department, and that's above and beyond. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Daniel Siegel, 1913 Lincoln Drive, and I'm going to try to stick to the 3 minutes, but I also know that if I can't, I have residents here that will give me their 3 minutes. So, first of all, I'd like to say, and I know I already mentioned this regarding the transparency, and also the meeting that was held on Tuesday wasn't noticed to the public until the day after the meeting occurred. And I know that you're not going to converse with me during public comment, but Attorney Tadeo, I would like an answer when public comment gets closed. Attorney Tadeo, I would like an answer when public comment gets closed as to whether or not that was a violation of the Sunshine Law and was that a legal meeting. Because I'm sure that many of us would have attended that meeting had we known about it. So that you don't have to answer it now, but I would like an answer when you close public comment. You know, it's quite interesting how the mayor and the other committee members and Committeeman Adams' letter today to the editor talks about the hand that they've been dealt. The hand that they've been dealt on the budget. And quite honestly, I'm sick and tired of hearing it. I think it's time that the residents really understand what the picture is on the budget. And what I'd like to do tonight is actually describe what that picture is and let you decide what kind of hand they've been dealt. So, first thing I'd like to say is I'd like to give you a little bit of budget history. And I have a chart back here that you can look at, and I'll provide copies of this if anyone's interested in. But in 2008 and 2009, Mayor Emiliani, she was the mayor at the time, the budget increased 13% in 2008 and 20% in 2009. She also took money from the sewer surplus, which only a subset of the residents pay into. I believe it's Wyndham Farms and Greenwich Chase. So she took money from the sewer surplus to balance the budget so that taxes wouldn't get raised. She was up for election, and she avoided a 5-cent tax increase. Guess what? That was a good thing back then, right, Elaine? That was a good thing. As mayor in 2010, I reduced the budget by 12%. In 2011, when I was mayor, I reduced it by 2%. Bad thing. Really bad thing, reducing the budget. Mayor Torriello used one-time escrow money to balance the budget in 2012. So not to raise taxes, because guess what? Elaine was up for re-election. Using escrow money then, good thing, really good thing. Mayor Torriello decreased the reserve for uncollectible taxes by $105,000, ignoring the pending issues of hundreds of thousands of dollars of tax appeals of commercial businesses, which we knew were coming down the pipe. Totally ignored it. Invested no money in capital for the future. We know that we have roads that are in need bad repair. And by the way, he used one-time revenue of $93,000 to avoid the tax increase. Good thing back then, Joe. Really good. Now, I'd like to just remind this committee, and actually our auditor, Mr. Morrison, in 2012, when I was on the committee, I remember having a conversation. In fact, I have a copy of an email here, and I have a letter from Auditor Morrison with his response. And at that time, I told him that I was quite concerned about the budget that was being presented and introduced by Mayor Torriello, because it was creating a 4 to 5 cent budget gap. I said, you're kicking the can down the road for the next committee in 2013. And this didn't include any increase in contractual increases that were already agreed to, and help increase health care and pension costs. Those are things that we have no control over. I have the letter from Mr. Morrison. He said to me, your email suggests that there's a budget gap of 4 to 5 cents. I must advise you that there is no budget gap in 2012 budget, and I am also unaware of any budgetary projection for 2013 that suggests such a gap for the next year. Mayor Perez and I, in 2013, we worked and negotiated and got the almost $300,000 from Cohatong for the red light money that they owed us. Mayor Torriello and Committeewoman Emiliani wasn't able to do that because Cohat didn't even want to talk with them. So, what did we do with that money? We put $60,000 in capital spending, and we closed the budget gap by using, we put $200,000 back into the budget. That was a really bad thing. Very bad thing. So you can see the pattern of behavior here. When they use one-time escrow money, right? They increase the budget. It's a good thing. But when somebody else is in charge, bad thing. Really bad thing. Mr. Mayor, let me remind you that the gap that you refer to this year is one that you and Committeewoman Emiliani created over the years that you were in charge. All you have to do is look at the history. So why don't you take accountability for your behavior for once and stop blaming others for your ineptness? In my opinion, we have elected officials sitting up here tonight that are arrogant, unethical, and unscrupulous, and that's why you're hearing these decisions tonight. You should be ashamed of yourself. And one last thing. I'm in HR, and I would like to ask the question, and I would like an answer on this tonight, too. How did you decide? What kind of skills assessment? How did you come to your decision as far as which jobs you were eliminating? How did you do that? Was it because you targeted certain people? And how much money are you really saving? We haven't heard that at all. We haven't heard what savings there is. So quite honestly, and I have one more thing to say, by the way. At the last meeting, when we had the budget discussion, and I asked Mr. Morrison a number of questions, what he said to me, he wasn't able to answer the questions. It wasn't that he wasn't able. He could, but he didn't because the committee wouldn't allow him. So what I want to say to, and his letter back to me, when I asked questions in 2012, he said, what I do not do as part of my review is to make policy decisions. Management recommends policy, and the governing body then adopts or rejects those recommendations. That's true, right? While an auditor may be able to discuss the potential impacts of policy decisions, I believe it's inappropriate for an auditor to make value judgments on the policy decisions without knowing all the relevant facts, circumstances, and expectations upon which the decisions were made. Well, let me tell you something. At the last meeting, there was an exchange between Committeeman Adams and Mr. Morrison, and quite honestly, if anybody wants to go back and listen to that tape, you will hear many value judgments being made, because he focused on the 2011 budget, and he focused on 2013. Never mentioned the one-time escrow used in 2012. So, quite honestly, you guys should all be ashamed of yourself, because the decisions that you're making that affect these employees, and you're not saving any money at all, you should be ashamed of yourself, because you're sitting up there big, fat, and happy. Dumb, fat, and happy. Thank you.
Red 624 South Main Street, Stewartville. I won't be long, the thing is still a lot of my friends here, so. But, my question to you is, where did the gap come from? When we left office last year, everything was budgeted. The only really big expense that I can think of was the fire department. We spent $820,000 on it, if I'm not mistaken. We had no real big expenses last year. We moved to the fact that we wasted money, spent money, but we did major improvements to the building here that we needed for the court and for the building itself. And I can't really think of anything else that was of any major expense. If there is something major expense, then you don't like it. If you bring into the fact that the play, the $300,000 for the sewer again, the fact that we have companies that may possibly already have gotten tax breaks, that part of what the budget problem is. There's no explanation as to what you're saying to us about, again, while you're mayor again, all of a sudden it's the previous administration's fault. One of the things I will say to you, Joe, is that we had budget discussions last year, and you were invited, everybody was invited to attend the budget discussions, but you did not attend. I think that if you are the guru that you claim to be, you would have attended those meetings and helped us with anything that you would have saw that would have been incorrect or would have hit home to the council, but yet you did not. So, to go to kick the can at us again, I find that truly unfair and not honorable. No one likes a tax increase, but I suggested to the committee 2 years in a row that we should have a 1 or 2 cent tax increase, because we hadn't had any tax increases for a couple of years. And my fear at that time was that we were going to get hit, what we're talking about now, with a big hit. I had discussed these things with Morrison, was our auditor. I discussed it with him, and he also agreed with that there should have been a small tax increase. But you did, Mr. Morrison, don't say no, because you and I had a conversation here.
Don't do that, sir.
Well, okay, you can say that. Anyway, let's just move on with that. But I thought that we were in for a big hurt because of some of the issues that were discussed in the executive session. I thought that we should have had at least a 1 or 2 penny tax increase to help us from having a tremendous tax increase. As Sandy stated, we did take $300,000 and we put $100,000 towards this year's budget to help out. And then my other issue is the police secretary. I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that we would be the only city with full-time police department without a maintenance or without a police secretary, if I'm not mistaken. So why would we want to put ourselves in that position to not have a police secretary, be the only township in the state of New Jersey without it? They also want to say to Tanya and everyone else here that's here in support of Mary Ann and Kathy, with Sue, with Leslie, and Barry, that I think you're making a tremendous mistake. DPW, there's always a need for a third person, and even though Barry's still going to be there, but at a limited capacity at only 30 hours, these guys work 40 hours a week. It's 40 hours of work. I know you don't believe that, Joe, because we've had conversations about that, but they're a hard-working group, and there's a lot of work that these guys do for a 2-man team. again, as I stated to Kathy, we'll be without a secretary. Mary Ann is a vital importance here because she does a lot of the overflow work for Ken. Someone in here said that sometimes they can't even get a permit, So and as the Leslie and Sue, they are two hardworking individuals. I was their liaison last year, and I was amazed at how much work they do and what they do. And again, I think that cutting everyone's hours and eliminating two individuals is not the right way to go.
Does anyone else wish to make public comment?
Gary Hill, 529 North Main Street. I hear mention that spending was out of control last year, but yet we were handed a $920,000 surplus. Many towns don't have a surplus at all, spending was out of control. All these years we've boasted about no tax increases, no tax increases. Mr. Perez just commented on that a little bit ago. In this day and age with the economy, it's unrealistic to think that you can have no tax increases at all, especially when we have huge capital projects that are down the road. We've outgrown this municipal complex. 10 years ago, there's been discussion about a new municipal building, a new municipal complex, firehouse, but nothing's been done because there aren't any money. We should have been putting money aside every year, like Dan said, either a 1 or 2 cent, even if you have a balanced budget, a 1 or 2 cent increase to help get a surplus, a larger surplus going, is going to make it a little bit easier down the road. Because eventually, we've already grown out of this. Every department's grown out of it a little more than now. And eventually, that's going to be even a bigger tab. When we talk about the services that we cut, we all go through the same thing at home. We all have a budget gap, whether it's here at the township or in our own house. Does that mean we don't feed our kids or make our mortgage payment? But you look at other avenues to get funding, figure out a way to do it. The cuts that you speak of tonight, just the employee cuts alone. What monetary amount is it? That's not the $300,000. To me, it sounds like more about maybe $42,000, which would probably have an impact on our individual taxes of maybe about $3 or $4. The amount of tax savings you're going to have there is not going to be equal to the services we're going to lose, especially in the police department. Talk about terminating the police secretary. Why don't you just cut her out? Why does she have to be terminated? That's a critical position. The funds that you're going to save by eliminating that position is going to be chewed up in probably 2 months of a police officer sitting at a desk filing paperwork. Again, that officer that should be out on the road patrolling. Doing what they would want to do. I don't see the cuts that you made here on the employment side being a realistic impact monetarily. It's going to be a bigger impact on the services that we're trying to get as a resident. I understand the decisions that you're making are tough, but the employee cuts that you make in a small town like this, they always end up costing a lot more down the road. The residents of Greenwich Township, I'll say it again, we deserve that.
Burn 104 Birch Lane. Before I talk to the budget, I just want to say, Torriello, have you listened to you for the entire year in 2012, the entire year, blaming every role of this township on prior administration? It got old back then. It's getting old again. You can do that all you want, but you know what? Thank God Mr. Obama finally stopped blaming George Bush for all his problems. It's time you took a cue from him and start taking some responsibility. It's not all about prior administration. Now, in terms of the budget cuts, I heard a lot of talk about the expense reduction. One area that didn't seem to be cut is your own salary. This is the highest paid committee in Warren County. How much of a cut are you folks taking? You're cutting everybody else, how much are you taking? Apparently nothing. Finally, so you're gonna cut the police secretary who does all the paperwork for our police force? How much are you gonna save there? Maybe 30 grand, maybe? And so we're gonna have $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year policemen doing all the paperwork instead of being out writing tickets, generating revenue. So you might be saving a little on the expense side, but you're also going to end up reducing your revenue. That doesn't seem like a smart thing to me. I just don't think that's been thought through, and I think you really need to reconsider that. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to make public comment?
Kathy DeStefano, Fire Police Secretary. There is a scene in The Wizard of Oz when Dorothy meets the Scarecrow and asks him, "How can you talk if you haven't a brain?" The Scarecrow answers, "Oh, some people without brains do an awful lot of talking." Just a few facts that need to be heard by your constituents, the taxpayers, about your transparency. One of the paramount values of the stats. By definition, transparent. Free from pretense or deceit, frank, easily detected or seen through, obvious, readily understood. All the decisions regarding the police department have been made without once consulting the chief, even though these decisions have such a huge negative impact on the police department. The chief has requested, as he said on several occasions, a meeting to discuss the rehiring of Elaine's friend, all to no avail. Once I received my first voice notice on April 2nd, blindsiding both myself and the chief, he immediately reached out for an explanation, only to be stonewalled by you, Tom. The final insult is closing the trailer, moving police department administration back to a basement, which is not handicap accessible, and not even to this day discussing it with the chief. That is your version of transparency. Here is true transparency. Joe and Tom, because you were bringing back Elaine's friend, you fought tooth and nail last year to install a public safety director, and you're still trying. So this committee can control the police department. Just to make sure everyone is perfectly clear on this, I've been fired. A layoff is done for financial reasons. Firing is solely personal. I guess having an exemplary attendance record, not stealing time, and giving 100% to the residents of this township isn't the quality service we speak of in your vision statement. To quote Pete Paris, all I ask is that you consider what it would be like to be fired from your job for no good reason. The only conclusion I can come to, and there's no disguising the fact, clearly, firing me is pure retaliation against the police department, and more specifically me, for testifying against Elaine's friend. Another definition, retaliate, to repay in kind, to return like for like, to get revenge. We may not always understand why God allows certain things to happen, but I know I'm stronger than this challenge, and this challenge is making me even stronger. Thank you. I thank all of you for allowing me the pleasure to serve you for the past 14 years. You have 9 wonderful men working for you and serving you. Title 40 exists for a reason, to protect against political corruption. Ask yourself, is this what you want controlling the police department? They can't even control themselves. Please continue to support your police department.
Anyone else wishing to make public comment? Seeing no hands?
Warren Nevin, the new proprietor of the general store. So I apologize, I'm not familiar with many of you. There was an individual earlier, the woman who talked about the rights notice. I'm familiar with the process. It's an unfortunate process. But if you look at one, you've got to look at all. So it's a very uncomfortable process, and once you open up that folder, you're opening it up for all. The gentleman that brought up the, I go back. My mother was a county clerk. So you really touched the chord with me. So growing up in the Bronx, it really connected with me. Hearing the gentleman speak about the cutback to the police officers. As the son of a police officer, I'm also very concerned about that. And hard decisions have to be made. There's no choice about that. And these are not easy choices that have to be made. And then there was an individual that came up and eloquently discussed, and I appreciate the fact that she just stood up and she didn't have notes, but she just talked about why weren't others, why didn't we reach out to others and ask the department heads, what were their thoughts? Well, you know what? Regarding revenue streams, these individuals, department heads should proactively be discussing these opportunities to cut costs in advance. That is what leadership is all about. Those individuals should not be sitting back waiting for individuals to come to them. They should be leading. That's why they are in those leadership positions. There's a gentleman in the back of the room who said, focus on new revenue opportunities rather than cuts. I believe in that. I believe we just kept our spending where it was and focused on revenue opportunities, we'd be in a great opportunity. Well, that's one of the members of this committee brought me forth and said, bring your business to this town. So I've answered that call, and I believe in it as the member of this committee. But there's something that I'm also concerned about, what's going on. As much as I love the fact that the seats are filled in this room, and I wish it was a standing room, but I love that the seats are filled in this room. The committee ran on a platform. Are they doing something now that is different than that which they ran on? That's not what I'm aware of. I would not have invested my money. I would not have invested my money in this community in a group of individuals that ran on one platform and did something different. That's not what capitalists do. Number one. Number two, Mr. Perez, I respect what you said. I do. I understand that you have a difference of opinion, and I appreciate the fact that you shared it. Ms. Siegel, you came up here
And what you said, you know better as an HR official. You know better as an individual that works for Sanofi. What you said to these individuals, how dare you? What you accused them of. If any individual at your company accused you without proper cause, they would be terminated immediately. It was absolutely inappropriate. It was outrageous.
Have some order.
Guys,
He was
order.
quiet when you weren't there.
Order, but I would ask the whole tenor of the conversation to be toned down from everyone.
There,
We haven't stopped.
there, I need 10 seconds.
Other people took more time. You're borrowing it from other time. Go ahead.
And quite honestly, I don't think you need to name my company.
There's a time when you need to know, take up your toys and go home.
Does anyone else want to make public comment?
I just want to say to Angela, thank you for applauding.
Dan, you already had your time.
Yeah,
You know the
yeah.
procedure. Mr. Hill's coming up.
Very helpful, I plan on working. All that we're doing here, I don't know what it went to, but we're questioning our elected officials. That's our job as a responsible taxpayer, is it not? If we don't see something that makes sense, we come to you and we question you about it, and we want answers.
You guys are killing me.
That's,
He's
to
talking
sit
to
here and drill somebody in the audience, totally upset.
Anyone else have public comment to make?
Please.
Danny Siegel, 1913 Lincoln Drive. What that gentleman just said was inappropriate, and I will tell you that companies do use skills assessment and criteria to make the decisions, and I would like to understand what criteria you guys use. And I'm sure that the employees affected would like to understand that criteria as well.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken want to make public comment? Seeing no hands, can I have a motion to close public comment?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Haley's.
Yes.
Miliani.
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
Laurie.
Yes.
Torilla.
Yes.
I'd like to make a statement.
Okay.
The question was brought up about our salaries, just so everyone, want everyone to know that my entire salary goes into a foundation to benefit the schools and senior citizens. So, from day one until my term, 3 years, my term is up. So, I don't profit from anything. My job. That's it.
Anyone else want to have a comment before I make a motion?
Are we doing the introductions of the budget?
I'm asking if anybody has a comment first. No?
Hold on. I do want to know a couple of things. One was, Mr. Tadeo, this whole issue with regard to notice in the papers and these issues.
It was properly noticed, an email was sent to the Express Times and the Star Ledger on Saturday at approximately 8:59. For the next available paper, that was about 70 hours before the meeting. We have a duty to notice the papers. We can't ensure that they publish the notice, but it was statutorily acceptable.
What
and
else
meeting
do we
was
do
proper.
around the township to notice? Do we put signs up?
There's a notice posted on the bulletin board outside.
And it also appears in the Star Ledger.
Did it appear on the new website?
Can I answer that?
I don't think we posted our minutes there. But, you know, it is important for the residents to understand that folks are politicking when they charge that meetings were not properly noticed, because that is why the statute reads that you have to provide the notice to the to the papers that are adopted as the official papers for notice in the reorganization meeting. All we can do is send it to the Express Times. We have no control over when they publish the meeting, but in fact, it was sent on Saturday.
Wasn't there a reason?
You're out of order. You're out of order.
Yes, I am.
Officer, if he speaks again, I want him removed, please. I know, he was not interrupted. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this.
Okay, so,
I'm not doing this.
so, the bottom line is, the meeting was properly noticed.
Yes.
And as I recall, it was purely an executive session, was it not? And we're talking about...
That's not even the issue. The issue is it was noticed, within the proper requirements of the law. We did everything we had to do, and whether or not the Express Times publishes it in their paper, it was also published in the Star Ledger, which is also our second notification. But it is important to clarify that there were some incorrect statements made with regard to that.
I can't go through all of the incorrect statements that I heard.
I know.
So, where do you want to take this, Joe?
Well, I had a statement, but there were so many inaccuracies that I'm going to start with just a few comments. To have a former elected official start off an electoral tone about how to treat people, and in the first sentence, she called someone here on the dais a piece of crap, I think is all I need to say about that individual and her lack of professionalism. And I really don't have to say anything further that she hasn't already proven herself. But with respect to some of the financial numbers, I think it's important, and I'm going to look to Bob because I do want the record corrected, because the beautiful thing about numbers is they don't lie, and the numbers are the numbers. And in 2011, when Tanya Siegel was mayor, as part of her insatiable quest for spending, she could not confine herself to the adopted budget, and in my opinion, contrary to DCA regulations, borrowed off of the 2012 budget $100,000. Is that correct, Mr. Morrison?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And with respect to 2012, trying to close and to address the spending, there were some monies in escrow accounts that were identified that were really taxpayer money, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we took the taxpayer money that was improperly allocated in escrow accounts, and we did a one-time application or applying to the budget. But what is lost in all the politicking and the hyperbole here is that there was a one-time expenditure. It was Tanya's borrowing off of the 2012 budget, and we took those funds to cancel each other out.
Right.
So it's one time and one time.
Exactly.
It doesn't carry into future years.
No.
But what Dan and Tanya did last year, and I find it just the height of hypocrisy, that the two of you would come here tonight and say anything other than offer an apology, because you guys created this. And in July 20th of 2013, I indicated, and it's in an article on the Express Times, so folks can see it, it's July 20th, 2013, by Sarah Peters. I indicated that the budget was reflective of tax and spenders and not from someone who was fiscally prudent. And I indicated at that time that the 2013 budget may cause committee members to have to make difficult decisions next year, including raising taxes or cutting department budgets. So it was... What's been lost in all of the gamesmanship is there was an increase of expenditures by $300,000.
Actually, by $400,000 if you exclude from 2012 the $100,000 that was applicable to the 2011 emergency.
And it was funded last year based upon one-time revenues. And now we're left with the same if we either have to make adjustments as we made here today, or we have to increase taxes, because we don't have the one-time revenues available to dip into as they did.
Well, we were sitting here 2 weeks ago, looking at having to use $700,000 of surplus, which I advised you was an amount that would not be regenerated and would put you down a path that you could not continue on. So the history over here, which is the real numbers, is that the 2013 final budget was $4,439,000. The 2012 budget was $4,125,000, and that included a $100,000 emergency from 2011. So the net difference between, no, that was not the fire truck.
Excuse
By
me,
the way,
public comment is closed.
the 2013 budget did not include any appropriation for a fire truck. That's in this budget.
Okay.
Thank you for that explanation.
Can I have just a second comment?
Of course.
I was sitting on the township committee, and yes, Tanya's correct, in 2008, a 5-member board voted for a $100,000 borrowing with a resolution to eventually pay back the residents of the sewer, the 880 residents. However, yes, in 2009, there was an increase. I'm not sure if it's 20%, but all of the police officers' contract negotiations, which had been back from 2006, had been negotiated that exact year. What kills me is, in 2010, you took $200,000 and voted down a resolution to repay the sewer. Correct. So you totally chose not to do that. In 2011, you chose to take the money from the 2012 budget because we had just adopted a budget. There was a $100,000 shortfall. We sat here, I asked what the questions were, wasn't given good answers, they were so mixed up. I knew that the escrows could have been there. I tried to explain that to you and to the financial group, and I have emails to prove it, that really detail that we could have gone and not taken that $100,000 in 2011. You made a resolution, you passed a resolution, I voted no. So Tanya, you're leaving out things.
I have a comment.
I don't know, I was asking if Wayne was done
Oh.
first. I don't want to...
Yeah, the rest of it is,
Okay, Jim.
No, I would like to give Committeeman Angelo, as well as any other committeeman, time to think, before I make a statement here, time to think of other revenue generating or expense reductions that haven't been recommended so far. So, I'm all ears in terms of hearing other avenues of doing this.
Your salary.
So I'll continue with my comments here. So, a particular HR individual stepped up to the podium during public comment and made some comments, and I just wanted to remind everyone, and really, at a risk, for the individuals who are here tonight who have heard my recommendations, number one, this is not an easy decision. Number two, I think we've made it abundantly clear the only reason for this is budgetary. That is the only reason for this. With that, so one of the particular issues, and Bob, I'll ask you, were there any provisions in the 2013 budget for a settlement agreement with Officer Tzapis?
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
Thank you. So, and that was not scripted. So, the bottom line is, this particular HR individual took it upon herself to fire a police officer. Where was everyone in the room when that officer was fired? I hope to God that you were all in here screaming that the safety of the township was in jeopardy because we just lost a policeman. I don't think everybody was here, but I'm going to leave that to your own conscience. Tanya, in my opinion, you were wrong. to fire Officer Kozopoulos. Not only were you, I'm speaking,
Somewhat, Jim.
not only were you wrong,
Let's dig into the facts, Jim.
not only were you wrong to fire him, but you were certainly wrong to defame him in the newspapers with a letter from Attorney Dorff. That was unconscionable.
He opened the door, he put his article in the newspaper. He defamed
We are,
himself.
in my opinion, we are lucky that Stewartsville is not called Kozopoulisville. Because the bottom line is, in my opinion, that lawsuit was so lopsided, he could have come in and owned this township. I'm thankful for the fact, I'm speaking, Tanya, tone it down.
Okay. You know the facts, Jim.
I've been telling you all along.
You know everything.
So,
As a former elected official, you should know, I understand that you lack the capacity to behave professionally, but you should try. Okay? Why don't you humor us all and try and act dignified?
Your body language right now, Joe.
So I'll move on.
Very uncomfortable.
I'll move on. So, Mr. Perez also stood up at the podium and made some public comments, and it appeared, and I'd like them verbatim for the record, please. Stated that he was under the impression that he had $300,000 and he bought a fire truck with it.
I didn't say that.
Was a fire truck purchased in 2013 or financed at all with this $300,000?
No, sir.
Okay. Are we now
Down payment was made.
Are we now dealing with the financing of that fire truck for this year's budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we are pretty much maintaining our aid to the fire department. I believe we reduced that by a small amount, but we are still maintaining that aid to the fire department.
Jim, any other final comments before I call for a motion?
Are there any other?
I just have one more comment, and it is in regards to the reduction that we have to the fire companies and the volunteer squad. While not extraordinary, I do need for you to identify where the audit needs to be done for both of those, and their treasury reports should be sent to us. I know that the squad has already done that, and if we could figure something out about, looking at the total package of what we're spending for each of the departments, it would be prudent. Okay.
And do we need a letter? Please.
The township and
Today,
Mary and I
yeah.
have been having discussions on this.
Okay. And for everyone's edification, that's a letter for volunteer rescue and fire, so that either your financial statements need to be audited, and if you can't find an auditor, we'll provide one for you. It almost sounds like a police statement.
But I would like at least what Gary has already provided, so that we don't stop, any aid. We don't want to hamstring the fire department with any kind of aid. So if you don't mind, Chief Mexi, if you could make that happen.
And there was some confusion as to whether it was our responsibility as a township or their responsibility to pay for the audit. Can we get that straightened out as far as who was
No, the public comment is closed. Is there a motion to introduce the budget?
I would like to afford any committee member a minute to offer any other recommendations.
Oh, yeah. We've made some. Does anybody else have any?
Well, the only other recommendations I had were some things that might go into next year. No, other than that, some of those police things that we talked about, that would go into next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is a copy of the budget available before you introduce it?
It is.
Is it available? Do we have copies now?
We are going to make some...
after it's introduced.
Right, we're going to make some changes to...
They're right here, and once it's published, correct?
The budget is sitting in front of us. What we didn't spend time on were the capital improvements for infrastructure for the township. I don't...
It'll be edited and provided, but we have a copy in front of us. Can I have a motion to introduce the 2014 municipal budget by title only?
I'll make the motion.
I will second.
Comment. Roll call.
Bailey's,
Am I voting for the budget? or-
you're voting to introduce the budget.
Yes.
Miliani?
Yes.
Adams?
Yes.
Valori?
Yes.
Torriello?
Yes. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make the motion.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.